China's military expansion is impossible to ignore. The People's Liberation Army, or PLA, boasts the largest standing army in the world, and its capabilities are rapidly advancing. From cutting-edge warships to hypersonic missiles, China is investing heavily in modernizing its armed forces. This build-up has sent ripples of concern throughout the Asia-Pacific region, with neighbors like Japan, India, and Vietnam growing increasingly wary. While China insists its intentions are purely defensive, the scale and scope of its military modernization raise valid questions. The specter of a rising China flexing its military muscle has become a defining feature of the geopolitical landscape. It has real-world implications for regional stability and the balance of power in the Asia-Pacific. Understanding the drivers and implications of China's military rise is crucial for policymakers and observers alike. The advanced weaponry symbolizes China's growing power, while the image of a warship at sea evokes concerns about its expanding reach and influence. Taiwan stands as a flashpoint in the debate over China's rise and its implications for regional security. Beijing views the self-governing island as a breakaway province, a legacy of the Chinese Civil War that it vows to eventually reunify with the mainland, by force if necessary. Taiwan maintains its own democratically elected government, distinct identity, and fierce determination to resist any attempt at forced unification. China has intensified military exercises near Taiwan, sending warships across the Taiwan Strait and warplanes into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. These actions are widely seen as a means of intimidating Taipei and signaling Beijing's resolve. The Taiwan issue is a powder keg in the Asia-Pacific, with the potential to ignite a conflict with global ramifications. The flags represent the two opposing sides of the One China issue, while the narrow body of water separating them serves as a stark reminder of the potential for conflict. The plight of the Uyghurs, a predominantly Muslim ethnic minority group in China's Xinjiang region, has drawn international condemnation. Human rights groups and Western governments accuse China of a systematic campaign of repression against the Uyghurs, including mass detention, forced labor, and cultural erasure. China denies these allegations, claiming its actions in Xinjiang are necessary to combat terrorism and extremism. However, mounting evidence from survivors' testimonies, leaked documents, and satellite imagery contradicts China's narrative. The Uyghur Crisis challenges China's human rights record and its international reputation. The world is watching, and the Chinese government's response to this crisis will have far-reaching consequences. The presence of barbed wire, watchtowers, and surveillance cameras suggests something more sinister than mere vocational training centers. Xi Jinping, China's paramount leader since 2012, has consolidated power to an unprecedented degree, overseeing a sweeping crackdown on dissent and corruption. He has abolished term limits, effectively allowing him to rule for life, and enshrined his own political ideology into the party constitution. Xi's supporters hail him as a strong and decisive leader, essential for guiding China's continued rise. They point to his anti-corruption campaign, poverty alleviation efforts, and ambitious infrastructure projects as evidence of his effective leadership. Critics, however, view Xi as an authoritarian ruler who has eroded any semblance of checks and balances within the Chinese political system. This image captures the duality of Xi Jinping's leadership. The shadow represents the opacity surrounding his decision-making process and the lack of transparency within the Chinese political system. The price of progress, economic success, and human rights. China's economic transformation over the past 4 decades has been nothing short of remarkable. Once a poor and isolated nation, China is now the world's second-largest economy and a global powerhouse. This remarkable ascent has lifted millions out of poverty and propelled China onto the world stage. However, this economic progress has come at a cost. The Chinese government's relentless pursuit of economic growth has often come at the expense of human rights, environmental protection, and social justice. Labor rights are routinely violated, dissent is ruthlessly crushed, and environmental regulations are often ignored in the name of economic development. This image showcases the dynamism and energy of China's economic engine, but it also hints at the potential human cost of such rapid development. The sheer scale of the city and the density of the population raise questions about the sustainability of this model and its impact on individual lives. Vanished. The chilling reality of disappearances in China. One of the most chilling aspects of China's authoritarian system is the arbitrary detention and enforced disappearances of individuals deemed a threat to the state. These disappearances often target human rights lawyers, activists, journalists, and even high-profile figures like business executives and celebrities. Victims are often snatched from their homes or workplaces without warning, denied access to legal representation, and held incommunicado for indefinite periods. The Chinese government's use of enforced disappearances is a blatant violation of international law and a testament to the regime's utter disregard for human rights. This image symbolizes the absence of those who have been forcibly disappeared in China. The empty chair represents the void left in the lives of their loved ones, while the spotlight highlights the international community's attention on this grave human rights issue. The unspoken truth-free speech in China. Freedom of speech, a cornerstone of democratic societies, is severely restricted in China. The Chinese Communist Party maintains a tight grip on all forms of media, including print, broadcast, and online platforms. Censorship is pervasive, with the government employing sophisticated technologies to monitor and control online discourse. Journalists and bloggers who dare to report on sensitive topics or criticize the government risk harassment, detention, and even imprisonment. This powerful image symbolizes the suppression of free speech in China. The act of covering the mouth signifies the silencing of dissenting voices and the stifling of open discourse. A clash of perspectives. Can dialogue bridge the divide? The chasm between China's worldview and that of many Western nations seems to be widening. Disagreements on issues like human rights, trade practices, and geopolitical ambitions have fueled tensions and strained relations. China often accuses the West, particularly the United States, of hypocrisy, pointing to its own history of military interventions and human rights abuses. The West criticizes China's authoritarian system, its human rights record, and its increasingly assertive foreign policy. It urges China to abide by international norms and standards, respect human rights, and embrace a more cooperative approach to global governance. This image captures the ongoing struggle to find common ground between China and the West. The hands reaching out represent a desire for dialogue and understanding, but the gap between them highlights the significant differences in values and perspectives that continue to divide them. The future of dissent, a glimmer of hope or continued silence. Despite the Chinese government's best efforts to maintain its grip on power, pockets of dissent persist within China. Human rights lawyers continue to defend the unjustly accused, citizen journalists risk their freedom to expose corruption and injustice, and ordinary citizens find creative ways to make their voices heard. The internet, while heavily censored, has also provided a platform for dissent, allowing information to spread more freely and connecting like-minded individuals. However, the space for dissent in China is shrinking, and the risks associated with speaking out are growing. This image represents the fragility of dissent in China. The candle flame symbolizes the courage and determination of those who dare to speak truth to power, while the darkness surrounding it represents the oppressive environment they face. China on the world stage, a force for cooperation or conflict. China's growing economic and military might has propelled it onto the world stage, where it is playing an increasingly assertive role. China is actively seeking to reshape the global order in its favor, challenging the existing rules-based system and promoting its own vision of a community of shared future for mankind. China's rise has been accompanied by a more assertive foreign policy, evident in its territorial disputes in the South China Sea and its ambitious Belt and Road Initiative. China's actions on the world stage have raised concerns among some countries, who view its rise as a challenge to the existing global order. This image captures the global implications of China's rise. The shadow represents China's growing influence and the uncertainty surrounding its intentions. Finding common ground, the path forward. Navigating the complex and often fraught relationship with China is one of the defining challenges of our time. Finding common ground on issues of mutual interest, such as climate change, global health security, and nuclear non-proliferation is essential for ensuring a more stable and prosperous future. However, engagement with China cannot come at the expense of our values. We must continue to speak out against human rights abuses, support democratic values, and uphold the rules-based international order. The choices China makes in the years to come will have profound consequences for us all. The obscured faces symbolize the challenges and uncertainties that lie ahead, while the bustling city backdrop represents the potential rewards of a more interconnected and interdependent world.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.